Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about why people fail to gain strength and gain muscle when they run programs like Conjugate Method, also slang term for that is West Side, or 531, which are very, very effective time-proven templates for bringing up your basic lifts and many other variations. And the problem we have is that a lot of people will try to claim that these are low volume templates or low volume programs, and they're absolutely not. In fact, it's very easy to approach junk volume when you do them. And I'm also quantifying my statements because a lot of people might see those names. They might be new to my channel. They might have heard other things about me. These are just recent lifts of mine, so you guys can see that for a dude in his 40s, I am by no means weak. So I'm knocking out a quick ramp up to a 605 deadlift and a 552 squat with no wraps or sleeves. So pretty decent for a guy in my 40s. I do know what I'm talking about. My clients do get results. So let's talk about what people do wrong here. And in fact, people will falsely claim that these are low volume programs. Well, what is it these two programs have in common? They're essentially a system for, in the case of 531, a set of programming for the squat, the bench, the deadlift, and the strict press, just called the press by many of us. Okay, a lot of you call it the standing overhead press or whatever. It's the strict press, just the press. It's a template for this, a progression pattern. That's it. That's all it is. And on the back end of it, you are supposed to do your supplemental work. The same thing when we come over to the conjugate method. Conjugate method's a 4-day upper-lower system, and I follow my own very large derivative from it. I don't even really call it conjugate, other than it's conjugate on the max lift. So we could still call it conjugate training, just not the conjugate method. I wouldn't insult Louis that way. But the conjugate method is a max effort press day with a max effort deadlift or squat day, and you usually rotate them. In some cases, even a max effort good morning can be thrown in there, in which you use variations of the lifts. And you don't repeat the same lift frequently unless you're a less experienced lifter. Sometimes you don't repeat them more than once every 12 weeks. That's why they have all the variations, different bars, bands, chains, blocks, different things that are done to change range of motion, to change the strength curve, change the center of gravity. So you're maxing out, and then it's got two dynamic days. You have a dynamic effort bench day and a dynamic effort squat and deadlift day in which you do speed work. Alternatively, those blocks can even be used for repetition method, which might be doing, sets of 5s or 6s. By the way, I have a lot of my clients do that who don't excel at speed work or who don't need speed work. I have them do, things like a 6x6 bench, 5x5 box squat, and, 5 rep set of sumo deadlifts. But it's not really a set. It's something totally different topic. But very, very common. Because I coach, for me personally, around half of my coaching clients run the conjugate method. Now, when you look at those, a lot of people will run programs like that and go, I didn't make any progress. And then you go, what did you do for supplemental work? I mean, here's a perfect example. After something like a 600 deadlift, for me, what's being shown here in this video is just a quick sample of what I might personally do afterwards. Like 4 sets of 20 on a good morning. 5 sets of 15 on an axle bar Pendlay row. Plus whatever hip thrusts and glute bridges and GHRs and stuff I throw in. Okay. On both of these systems, you are supposed to do hypertrophy training afterwards. Only novice lifters are going to grow from a progression off of basic lifts. Once you are no longer a novice lifter, you start to need accessory work. And if you pick inappropriate accessory work, you don't get bigger and stronger. In other words, on your bench or your overhead press day, because technically you could be either one in either one of those systems, right? Because you can max on an overhead press on conjugate. If you think that your appropriate accessory work is to do 3 sets of lat pull downs and 15 sets of concentration curls and cable curls doing triple drop sets, you might get a little bit of bicep. Okay, but you're not going to have a back. You're not going to have pecs. You're not going to have triceps. You're not going to have traps. So if that's your idea of supplemental work, because you run these programs and think, oh, I'll just be a bro and do nothing but curls, what do you think is going to happen? Your bench is not going to go up, or it's going to go up marginally. You know, your 250 bench might go up to 265 over the course of 6 months or a year. Same thing with the lower body stuff. Means anyone think you're supposed to just come in and hit a max squat or a deadlift and go home? No. You need to do back work. You need to do hamstring work. You need to do glute work. Right? If you're not at least doing some strict rows of some type on that day, there's a problem. And that's with any of these templates. I'll be honest, like if you guys even think pull-ups are sufficient, and I like pull-ups, I think pull-ups are a fantastic exercise. If you're coming in and just doing a few pull-ups and you're not doing any rows, nothing that trains your posterior chain, and keep in mind rows work your traps and rear delts a hell of a lot more than a pull-up does, there's a problem. You're not doing any hamstring work. Even on your speed days, does anyone out there legitimately think you're going to maximize hamstring development off of squats and deadlifts? Do you really think that's going to happen? You really think deadlifts are going to hypertrophy anything maximally? Not doing anything for your glutes? And no, you can't just do a few fluff things. Like, again, I've seen guys try to run systems like this, and then they're like, okay, well, I'll do some lat pull downs. Yeah. And, you know, a few sets on the hyperextension bench. Like, I'm not saying these aren't bad exercises that if you get really deep into your volume, but you might want to do something that involves a little more muscle than those. We could look at the same thing on benching and overhead press days. I'm not saying some rear delt and some upper back work and even bicep work isn't helpful. It is. What are you doing for your pecs? What are you doing for your delts? What are you doing for your triceps? All right? And I'm serious. Some of these systems, some of the guys who run these systems, like you take your Conjugate, for example, a lot of the guys who run it, who are successful at it, are doing 15, 20 sets of supplemental movements after the main template. Some of them do triceps and reverse hypers every single day, and abs. Okay, that's actually really common among the West Side guys, for example, who Conjugate is based out of their gym. It is normal to do 20 sets of supplemental work after each main workout, and then come in on off days and drag sleds, which has its own hypertrophic effect, and to literally do stuff like reverse hypers, tricep extensions, abs every single day. Okay. The base template is just your base programmed work. Hypertrophy requires significant amounts of volume. Same thing with 531. If you're coming in and just doing those 4 basic exercises on that template, don't be shocked if you don't get great results. The guy who gets great results doing that and throwing in a few rows and pull-ups is a genetic freak. Okay, that person's a genetic freak. And by the way, 531 as it's set up today by Wendler is a quite viable system. Like if someone were to say, hey, is this good? Be like, yeah, I think Conjugate's better. But could somebody get pretty damn strong doing it? You bet they could. It actually has become a viable system. But you have to do the accessory movements, and you have to do enough volume to stimulate growth through your whole body, and particularly your weak links. When you're doing these main exercises, you have to identify your weak links. If your pecs are your weak link in your bench, you need to train your pecs. If your triceps are your weak link in your overhead press, you need to train the holy hell out of your triceps. If your hamstrings are the limit on your deadlift, you need to be doing 20 sets for your hamstrings every single week. All right? Otherwise, that's why people fail on these templates. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.